We've now looked at major shortcomings in the Schurer hypothesis, and we've shown that the math works very well if inclusive reckoning is not used. Now we need to tackle what Andrew Steinmann has referred to as the last remaining pillar of the Schurer hypothesis, the dates of the reigns of Herod's sons. The evidence does appear to suggest that at least two of them reckon their reigns from approximately 4 BC. That should be pretty straightforward then, right? If they start their reigns in 4 BC, that's when their father Herod died. Unfortunately, it's not quite so simple. I intend to show an alternate explanation. It will require looking at some of the family dynamics of the Herodian dynasty. This was a pretty rough family. Herod had 3 of his sons executed, 1 of his wives, as well as numerous in-laws. He was a very violent man. He had to rewrite his will several times. In fact, one of the sons, who at one point has been his heir, was executed 5 days before Herod died. Killing off heirs meant rewriting wills, and the crotchety old man wrote several wills within the last few years of his life. This meant that when he died, there was some degree of debate and confusion about who was supposed to be his heir. Archelaus and Antipas were the principal contenders. They had to go to Caesar to have the wills examined and adjudicated, and there was a bitter feud to determine who would get Dad's kingdom. Now we have several lines of evidence suggesting that Herod allowed family members to execute some degree of royal authority during his lifetime. Herod's son Antipater, whom Herod later killed, was either co-regent or very powerful in Herod's kingdom for a time. Herod's brother Pheroras was appointed tetrarch of Perea. There is reason to believe that others of Herod's sons were given some degree of authority or at least titles while Herod was still alive. This would prove a very valuable argument for Herod's sons to make to Caesar. You should make me king because Dad trusted me. He already gave me authority. I've already been running this part of the kingdom for a few years. They wanted to do exactly what everybody does with their resume. Beef up the work experience, make it look as good as possible, perhaps even better than it really was. I've already been doing the job for several years. What we see then is that Archelaus and Antipas had strong incentive and opportunity to backdate their reigns, to not start counting from after Dad died, but to backdate their reigns several years earlier to when Dad gave them a title or a responsibility. In fact, after Herod's brother Pheroras was killed by Herod's son Antipater, and of course Herod retaliated by killing his son, I told you, rough family here, there was no longer a tetrarch of Perea. So which is more likely? Herod, in his twilight years, in addition to being king, takes on the day-to-day responsibilities of running Perea? Or, given that he's already shown he's willing to let a family member run Perea, as long as they report to him, he lets one of his sons take the job. History records no tetrarch of Perea between Herod's brother Pheroras and Herod's son Antipas. It is at least possible then that Antipas was given the title, if not also the responsibility, of running Perea under Herod after the death of Pheroras. So how does this play out? Archelaus and Antipas make their case to Caesar, I should be the next king. What does Caesar do? He doesn't fully grant the requests of either of them. Neither of them are made king in their father's place. The kingdom gets split up. Archelaus gets the title of ethnarch. He gets the nicest territory, including Judea. Antipas gets the title of tetrarch. He gets Perea and Galilee, and other territories are divided up as well. While it is not certain, then, that Herod's sons dated their reigns to a time while Herod was still alive, they had both the opportunity and the incentive to do so, to make their case to Caesar as strongly as they could. And there are 2 remarkable pieces of evidence supporting this view. Number 1, the numismatic evidence, the coins. As we noted earlier in a discussion of Herod's conquest of Jerusalem, minting coins was a valuable piece of propaganda. My name's on the coins, I'm the one in charge now. And yet none of Herod's sons have any surviving coins dated to the first 3 years of their reigns. Why, at the beginning of the reign, when they should be saying, I'm in charge, look, I'm on the coins, are there no surviving coins? The earliest coin, and there's only one of them, is dated year 4. This has led many to conclude that Herod's sons were indeed dating their reigns from a period of time while their father was still alive. They had a degree of authority, but Herod, the overall guy in charge, reserved to himself the authority to mint coins. Thus, the first coins minted by Herod's sons would be after Herod's death, and with the earliest coin in year 4, just one of them, and after that, nothing before year 5. That suggests we're looking at 3+ years in which Herod's sons' reigns are being reckoned. Year 1, year 2, year 3, but they're not really in charge. They're not minting coins. Their father Herod is still alive. Number 2, let us consider Herod was a king. He had a kingdom. None of his sons got the title of king. None of his sons got his kingdom. It would be one thing to say, the new king has to wait until the old king is dead to start saying, I'm king, this is year 1 of my reign, absent a co-regency, of course. But it would be one thing to say that. It's an entirely different matter if the successors aren't in fact kings. Archelaus is an ethnarch, Antipas is a tetrarch. Tetrarch in particular is a title and a responsibility that we know existed during the lifetime of Herod. They don't have to wait until the king is dead to start reckoning their reigns as lesser nobles. The opportunity is there, the incentive is there, and the circumstantial evidence suggests this may well be what happened. Now, we haven't made an absolute proof that Herod's sons antedated their reigns. Rather, we've shown that this doesn't work to defend the Schurer hypothesis. Those who wish to defend the Schurer hypothesis must show that the reigns of Herod's sons are consistent with Herod dying in 4 BC and only with Herod dying in 4 BC. We've just shown that isn't the case. Because of that, this argument is not probative. It doesn't move the needle either way. And it does nothing to rescue the Schurer hypothesis from the significant shortcomings and contradictions we explored previously. What does that mean? With no disrespect to Emil Schurer as a scholar, I've looked at the data. I've investigated his assumptions. I've done the math. I think Schurer got it wrong. That means that this is not the eclipse you're looking for.